All right, let's have a look at page 2 of this revision. So we need to find the area of these rectangles and squares. So this first one, if this is 8, and this has got the same marking, that's also 8. For a rectangle or a square, we do length by width. So this is 8 by 8, 64 centimetres squared. Same with this, it'll be 2 by 9, length by width, 18 millimetres squared. 3.5 times 7. Okay, let's work out what that is. 7. I'm not going to worry about the decimal point yet. 35, carry 3. This is 2, 4, 5, and the decimal point is here because one number after the decimal point, one number after the decimal point. And this one would be 0.1 and this is 0.1. 0.1 times 0.1. Well, 1 times 1 is 1, and there's 2 numbers after the decimal point, so it'd be 0.01 kilometres squared. Let's look at the triangles. For a triangle, it's half times base times height. Because if we had a rectangle around here, that'd be base times height, but this only takes up half the space. So half times 4 times 12. Half of 4 is 2 times 12, 24 millimetres squared. Again, this one, if we drew a rectangle around, it'd be the whole thing. We only want half of it. Half times 7 times 8. Well, I'm going to say half times 8 is 4 times 7, 28 centimetres squared. When we're multiplying the order we do, it doesn't matter. Let's do this one. Half times 9 times 5, which is half times 45, which is 22.5 metres squared. Now getting down to the parallelograms. Remember that the area of a parallelogram, it's hard to say, base times height, but it must be the perpendicular height. So sometimes it's going to be a bit tricky to work out which one that is. But most of the time, if you've just got 2 measurements, like here, just do 8 times 6, 48 millimetres squared. 3.5 times 7. Let's do this here, 35, 7. 24.5, look at that. It's actually the same as the one we did up here. Metres squared. And this, the base and the height. So the perpendicular height is what we always use. So I know I'm going to have the 2. And then I have to decide, will I use 2.9 or 1.4? Well, this is perpendicular to this one here. So I will use the 1.4. So that is 2.8 centimetres squared. So there's our parallelograms. And let's go down the bottom to volume. And remember, for volume, we did length times width times height. So we just multiply these together. 8 times 5 times 3. 5 8s are 40 times 3, 120 centimetres squared. This one's a bit tricky because where's our third measurement? Well, it's got to be 7 metres because that's got 2 marks on it and that's got 2 marks. So it's a 7 times 1, 49 metres squared. And this one, they're all the same. So it's 1.2 times 1.2 times 1.2. And then we go ahead and work that out and we will get, I'm just checking, 1.728 millimetres squared. And let's go to our third and final page. We're finding area of some composite shapes here. So that's the last thing we did, and this is a little bit trickier. So what we have to do, it's helped you here, break it up into 2 different shapes that we know. So we've got 2 rectangles. This one here is 6 times 2. This one here, it's 2 times 2. So the total is this square plus this square, so it's 16 metres squared. In this one, I'm going to drop a line down here. That way I've got a triangle and a rectangle. I'll do the rectangle first because it's just 5 times 3. And the triangle up here, its height is 3 and its base length, well, if the whole thing is 8 and this bit is 5, this must be 3. So it's half times base times height. So the total, when we add areas 1 and 2 together, is 19.5 millimetres squared. So break it down into the shapes that you do know. Let's have a look at C here. I'm going to divide it again into a rectangle and a triangle. 4 times 9. And the triangle, it's half times the base times by the height. So if this is 4 and the whole thing's 7, this bit must be 3. So that's 13.5. So the total, when we add them together, is 49.5 metres squared. Down to our last few. This one I'm going to do a takeaway, because if I draw a rectangle around there, I want to take this away. So the whole thing, the rectangle, is 7 times 6. Then I'm going to chop off this little bit. So I'm going to call that T for the triangle. That's half times the base times the height. So this time, to get the total, I'm going to do the area of the big shape, take away that bit that's been chopped up. Kilometres squared. This second one here, it's similar, it's a takeout one. I'm going to first of all work out the area of this whole rectangle. So this is 15 and this is 15. So for the rectangle, which is actually a square, doesn't matter, that's 225. For the triangle, the bit that we're chopping out here, it's half times the base. So we know all the sides are 15, so this is 15, times by this height, 10. So in this case, it's easy to say half of 10 is 5. 5 times 15 is 75. So for my total, I want to do 225, take away 75, which is 150 centimetres squared. And then our very last question, you can either do it as a takeaway or you could divide it up and do it as a plus, but I'm going to do it as a takeaway area. I'm going to say the whole rectangle is 8 times 9. And I'm going to take away this smaller bit, and it's a square, it's 3 times 3. So I start off with 72, and I take away this 9, chop it out, so I end up with 63 centimetres squared.